This man is our main character. His name is Lee Jim-hyung. He is 28 years old. He used to be a good chef, who had won many awards. But unfortunately, on a trip to England, he had a serious accident. After that, he lost his sense of taste and smell. For a chef, these two senses are their lifeline. Losing these two senses for a chef is a death sentence. He thought that losing these two senses was only a temporary injury from the collision, so he still tried to live day by day, hoping for a miracle to happen. Every time he cooked, he had a hopeful attitude that his sense of taste and smell would recover. But the truth was always cruel. As soon as he put the food in his mouth, his body shivered, tears started to appear in his lifeless eyes. He threw the food on the floor and screamed in despair. Nothing had changed. It had been a year. Everything was still bland, the damn bland taste. He could not taste anything, it was still bland. He lay down on the floor and tormented himself and then fell asleep, without knowing when. Suddenly he was awakened by the doorbell. He lifted his body full of alcohol smell and opened the door. It was a shipper who brought him a package from a company called Real. He opened the package and inside was a virtual reality gaming device. A few days ago, while watching TV, he saw them introducing this device. According to them, the virtual reality device used in conjunction with this drink would allow the player to feel all five senses as in the real world. He ordered a set with the hope that he would be able to feel the taste again in the game world. Although he did not believe that it was really as the publisher said, he was free now, so he still wanted to try it once. He put on the game device and then drank a bottle of water that came with it and started logging into the game world. The image began to appear. Hyung was immediately taken to the realistic scene of the game. A character design board appeared in front of him. He chose a rather unique nickname called Rice. As for the appearance, he did not know how to choose, so he pressed random. Immediately, the system automatically sets up the character's appearance. Only a few seconds after the character creation was completed, Hyung transformed into a character with a rather scholarly appearance. Along with that was a white hair. Looking at his appearance, he looked like some thief. Right after that, the system immediately brought him to the starting area for new players. Here, he saw a lot of players fighting with one-horned chickens. The system NPC appeared to help, but by then he seemed to no longer hear what she was saying. He was enjoying the joy, enjoying the feeling that had disappeared for a year. That was the smell. He could smell the fragrance of this grass field, both happy and surprised. Hyung sat down. In his head there were questions full of doubt. Maybe he could also feel the taste again? Without hesitation, Hyung immediately grabbed a handful of grass and put it in his mouth to chew before the curiosity of the surrounding players. Hyung shed tears. Like this time were tears of joy and happiness. So bitter. He felt it. How long had it been since he tasted this bitter taste? While enjoying the feeling of having the taste back, suddenly, a one-horned chicken rushed to attack Hyung. Just when its beak was only a few centimeters away from his face, it was hit by another player with a stick and lay still. The red-haired guy who had just killed the chicken. Seeing him confused, the red-haired guy remembered, "Hey, don't dream anymore, this place is for hunting. Are you new?" This guy was quite friendly. After talking for a while, he left the chicken and 2 eggs and left. Hyung called him back, but he was gone. On the ground were 2 eggs of the one-horned chicken, not only bigger than normal eggs, but also had many small horns growing outside. Seeing 2 eggs like that, he came up with the idea of cooking them to enjoy. He made a simple wood stove, used a stone as a pan and started making fried eggs. It only took a few minutes. The beautiful one-horned chicken fried eggs were done. Looking at the 2 eggs in front of him, Hyung was full of doubt. He didn't know if he could feel the taste of it. Not waiting any longer, Hyung immediately took a small piece of egg, tremblingly brought it to his mouth. As soon as the egg was put in his mouth, Hyung's body shivered, his face showing the expression of joy. "Here it is, the taste of it is here." "Nice to meet you," fried egg. It tastes 1,000 times better than in my memory. The rich, creamy taste of the yolk melted and filled his mouth. Finally, Hyung was able to feel the taste of food again. It made the hope that had almost run out in him once again flicker. Even though everything was just an illusion in the game, for him, that was enough. That was wonderful. Although it was not the real world, for someone who had lost their sense of taste, this was very happy. System notification: eating an egg increases the player's hunger by 10 points. While enjoying the happiness of eating, Hyung did not pay attention. There was a girl calling him. Only when she came close, did Hyung know that someone was calling him. The girl spoke with a little embarrassment. "It looks delicious, right?" she said, then gave him an egg of a one-horn chicken, asking him to cook it. To pay him, she promised to give Hyung both the reward and the cooking fee. Hyung was still astonished that someone asked him to cook for them. System notification: Mary offers to trade a fried egg. Do you want to accept? Hyung asked. How much do you think an egg is worth? The girl offered 500 won. Hyung did not bargain but happily agreed right away. He did not expect that, in the game, he could also sell food. Just a moment later, the golden fried egg was done. Looking at the fried egg with the yolk cooked gently, creating a bright orange layer, the girl was very excited. She started to enjoy the first piece. Watching the girl start to enjoy, Hyung stood outside nervously. He did not know whether the food he made for the first customer in the game was good or not. Without hesitation, she scooped a full spoon of egg and put it in her mouth. As soon as the egg was in his mouth, the girl had a very uncomfortable expression. Seeing her expression, Hyung was so scared that he bit his own mouth and bled. But right after that, the girl returned to a happy face, making Hyung stunned. Speechless. Oh my god, it's so delicious. It's even better than outside. How did you cook it? Are you a genius? It's like I'm enjoying a dish at an expensive restaurant. It's even better. The egg was smooth, melted in the mouth, buttery, creamy, blended perfectly. Not only that, it tasted almost like in real life. Getting praised by the first customer, Hyung was very happy when he had pleased the first customer after a year of quitting cooking. She paid Hyung, said goodbye to him and left. Before leaving, she said happily, "Thank you for the meal, I will come back again." After she left, Hyung thought, this game was called real. If he could really do anything he wanted here, could he achieve that dream? This was just a game world, but if he couldn't fulfill his desire in real life, then at least he could do it here. After the experience, Hyung paused and returned to real life. The feeling of leaving the game and returning to real life was very fresh. But outside, his sense of smell and taste were still the same. He couldn't smell or taste anything. However, after the experience, it showed him the meaning of life. He decided to interview for a part-time job at a restaurant. WOA. He looked like a mess at home, but now he had groomed himself and turned into a handsome and cheerful guy to go for an interview. With his enthusiasm and confidence, he was accepted by the boss to work there. He will start working at this restaurant, starting from tomorrow. The boss thought he was new, so he instructed, "Don't be late tomorrow, try to learn and get used to the work here. Good luck." At this time, in the kitchen of the restaurant, there was also a young man who seemed to be experimenting with some dish. Looking at his face, he looked quite picky and hard to approach. "Goodbye, boss," Hyung went home. On the way, the confident look returned to his face. Although he could not smell or taste anything anymore, but now it was okay, he just slowly tried different ways. Back to the game, it was still the area where he fought with chickens for beginners. These newcomers did not know each other, but they still helped each other and gradually they started to look for members to form a team. Ignoring the others who were busy hunting, Hyung still calmly sat there and processed the chicken meat. His technique was really skillful, worthy of being a chef who had won countless cooking contests. In just a moment, he had cut the chicken, divided it into separate parts. Next, Hyung went looking for the ingredients to marinate. The more he experienced the game, the more he felt that everything in the game was even more real than outside. After a while of trying, Hyung also found the rosemary to serve the chicken dish. This time, he made grilled chicken skewers. After preparing for a while, Hyung finished the juicy chicken skewers. They looked very appetizing. He started to light a fire and grill them on a stone slab. The fragrant aroma from the chicken sauce began to spread around. The seductive smell made the hungry stomachs of the players here start to pay attention to him. Hyung was happy. He looked at the juicy and delicious grilled chicken skewers that were done. System notification: grilled chicken skewers increase hunger by 15 points. The smell of grilled chicken continued to follow the wind, making more and more players in this beginner field notice him. Many people could not resist and started to approach curiously to see. Hyung began to enjoy the grilled chicken skewers with a satisfied expression. The girl who bought the egg from him yesterday came to see him. She expressed her desire to buy his chicken skewers. Hyung immediately quoted 501 per skewer. Then, he started to prepare more to serve all the players. After biting the chicken, they all praised it for being delicious. Everyone enjoyed the food with a happy face. On Hyung's side, he was still continuously preparing the chicken dish with a very fast and professional speed. Hyung's happy face while cooking was full of happiness. That's right, it was this sizzling sound that he had started to get used to cooking meat like before. The experiences and skills that had been forgotten after a long year of frustration and despair. Now, he had done it perfectly as if there had never been a separation. He decided to start over again right here in this real game. The system notification appeared: unlock achievement, receive the title warrior. The unlock condition is to hit the monsters more than 1,000 times. Hyung also received his first mission and achieved a passive skill that was quite useful. The skill was called Weakness. The owner of this skill could see the weakness of the 1-star monsters. When hitting the weakness, there was a chance to kill the monster immediately. He also received an active skill called Focus Strength. This skill focused strength on the weapon, causing critical damage. This skill would use 30% of the stomach to increase 15% damage. Hyung was still a little confused with the skills he had achieved. He immediately wanted to try the effects of these skills. He turned to see the other players who were busy fighting with the one-horned chickens. He thought of hunting. Because from the time he entered the game until now, he only picked up the items that others left behind. But before that he had never fought, so he was also a little worried because he didn't know how to start. Hyung went to a few people who were fighting and asked to join. 2 players happily agreed on the condition that he had to kill the one-horned chicken that they were fighting. The crazy chicken ran towards Hyung, making him feel scared, because he didn't know what to do and the chicken was too big. When he stepped into the range limit, his passive skill Weakness was activated. Hyung immediately saw a bright spot appear on the chicken's head. It must be its weakness, just attack it and the chicken can be defeated immediately. Hyung used the skill to focus his strength, pushed the dagger and confidently rushed to the chicken. He intended to feast on it, but life is not as he dreamed. Before he could touch it, he was hit by it. His whole body flew into the air, spun 3 rounds and landed on the ground, flattening the 2 players who were standing there watching him get beaten by the chicken and couldn't help laughing. Hyung struggled to get up. Indeed, fighting was not as simple as he thought and Hyung had the intention to give up. But he remembered when he was still working in the kitchen, the person who guided him always reminded him to do and redo many times to be proficient. And when working, he had to focus on what he was doing. Thinking of this, he immediately regained his fighting spirit. He bent down to pick up a chicken horn and ran towards the flock of chickens to fight again. Surprisingly, at this time, the system notification appeared: the system battlefield boss has opened. The boss chicken with a huge horn has appeared. The two players stopped with a surprised expression. A giant chicken shadow was slowly approaching them. Although they felt a bit uneasy with the huge body of this chicken boss, the two of them still wanted to pick up their weapons and fight. As soon as the two entered the boss's battlefield, the chicken immediately became furious, using its horn to attack the two. The boss's strength was indeed not easy to deal with. In just a moment, the young man holding the axe was knocked away by the chicken. At the same time, Hyung also entered the boss's battlefield. He cautiously approached it from behind. The boss was still attacking the remaining player of the team. In front of the boss's aggressiveness, this guy could only use his shield to defend against the chicken's deadly pecks. As soon as Hyung approached the boss to a designated distance, his passive skill was activated thanks to his special eyes that could immediately see the boss's weakness. The boss's weakness was in a very special and quite smelly position. Without any hesitation, Hyung used the sharp horn of the one-horned chicken to attack the chicken boss. But it seemed that the attack was not strong enough. The horn did not penetrate deep into the body of the big chicken. Hyung's stab not only failed to kill the boss chicken, but also made it go crazy. The pain made it more violent. It used its big, hard, and sharp beak to peck furiously at the three people. Hyung was still trying to calm himself down. Don't be afraid. This is just a game. This is not reality. There is no need to be afraid. His two friends, after a while of defending, finally could not resist, and were knocked away by it again. The friend with the axe was hit by the chicken many times, so he had a fit of rage. He shouted, "How many times have we hit you? Why don't you die?" Then he swung his axe up, and slashed at the boss chicken's next peck, which was fast as lightning. The chicken sensed his killing intent, turned around and launched a very fast headbutt. Its huge and sharp horn pierced through the body of the guy with the axe. Then, it sent him back to the healing area by air. In front of Hyung's astonished eyes, he realized that if he was killed, he would disappear. Even though everything in the game was just imaginary, Hyung still felt scared. On the other side, the chicken was still continuing to attack the remaining player, making him struggle to survive against this crazy chicken. From behind the chicken, Hyung jumped into the air. He used the skill of concentrating his strength, and started to gather his power into his sharp horn. Hyung aimed straight at the weak point glowing on the chicken's butt. He used all his strength to stab down, a precise critical hit. It helped Hyung kill the boss immediately. After killing the boss chicken, the system notification appeared again. Thanks to his achievement of killing the boss, Hyung received the title of Giant Horn Chicken and a passive skill called the Strongest Chicken. His friends saw Hyung defeat the boss and happily praised him. The other players were also amazed to see him kill the boss with one hit. A girl with pink hair found Hyung's defeat of the boss very interesting, so she spoke up to make friends. "You are Rice, right? Just to remind you, Rice is Hyung's name in the game. We finally met each other. I saw your post on the Real Fan Cafe, so I was also planning to look for you. I'm your fan." The girl introduced herself as Melina. For those who don't know, Fan Cafe is a social network of South Korea. Hyung was surprised when Melina told him that his review post about grilled chicken skewers received a lot of attention, but her purpose of coming to Hyung today was not only to try the grilled chicken skewers, but she also wanted to partner with him to do business in the game. "Please trust and cooperate with me," Melina said to Hyung in a mood that was not only happy but very excited, showing that she was very sincere. The game publisher was advertising an event. Real is the first virtual reality RPG game, with a prize of up to 100 billion won for the first person to kill the Demon King. The event with a huge prize attracted a large number of players to join the game world. Back to Hyung. In a corner of the forest in the game, he and his friend were fighting a boss and preparing for a meal. Hyung had refused the business offer, but she didn't give up and automatically followed him to help, hoping he would change his mind. On the other side, Hyung was tasting some new ingredients for his dish. Looking at his face, you could tell how sour the thing he put in his mouth was. Melina asked, "I have a question, why is your ID Rice?" "It's simply because I really like cooking, so I named it Rice." Hyung shared that he had never played games before, this was the first game he joined. Melina was also quite surprised, and his friend also knew the reason why Hyung never talked about hunting. But after he killed the boss, along with his review of the dish, he became quite famous. Hyung didn't care much, he came to this game to regain his sense of smell and taste, or more precisely, he wanted to continue his passion for cooking. Hyung was still working hard to create a new recipe. "Wow, I just tried using a few random things and didn't expect it to be so delicious." "Hey, you too, help me put some mushrooms in." Hyung called his two friends happily, the aroma from the soup pot made even the pickiest eaters drool. Hyung continued to stir the soup pot to make the ingredients blend together perfectly. Melina stood outside and only smelled the fragrance from the soup. Involuntarily, her face became happy, saliva flowed out. Hyung opened his storage space. Then he took out a huge chicken leg. Although it had been cooked for a long time, when he took it out of the bag, it was still hot as if it had just been cooked. He called the two to enjoy it. The dish. Giant chicken steak with mushroom sauce is done. Eating this dish increases 4 points of satisfaction and 1 point of attack. On the plate is a grilled chicken leg, with the bright yellow color of the crispy skin and the moist and tender meat inside. The mushroom sauce is poured over it, creating a glossy and thick layer, emitting a rich and appetizing aroma. The three of them start to enjoy this delicious dish. As soon as they put it in their mouth, the taste of the dish immediately explodes in their mouth. It is so delicious that it seems to take them to another world, a beautiful and enchanting world of chicken and mushroom explosions. That's right, this is the world of taste. It is being attacked by the chicken and mushroom pieces. The chicken is very soft and moist, not dry or burnt. The mushroom sauce penetrates evenly into the chicken, creating a delicious taste that is hard to describe, making you want to swallow every piece of chicken. After enjoying it, you will feel the taste of the dish still lingering in your mouth and a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. Back to reality, the three of them are still not out of the enchanting taste. Hyung saw the two of them sitting still. Hyung spoke up, "Do you two like this dish?" The two of them unanimously replied with an ecstatic mood. "Delicious, awesome. This is the best dish I have ever tasted." Hyung was astonished by the somewhat exaggerated reaction of his two friends. The system showed a notification. He received another passive skill. This skill is called Chef's Luck. The description says that the chance of making a gold or upper-class dish is very low. You will receive a skill that increases your strength temporarily or a skill that increases your endurance permanently. The three of them did not expect that making a delicious dish could also be a skill. The character Rice currently has the following stats: Health 120, Medium Attack Strength 45, Agility 15, Defense 15, Cooking 10, Hunger 52 to 120. Finally, it was late. It was time to say goodbye. Before leaving, his friend suggested that the three of them become friends with each other. He also gave directions to Hyung so that he could reach the nearest town, where he could exchange the items he needed. After talking, the three of them said goodbye to each other, and each went home. Hyung, who was now alone, was still enjoying the scent of the night. Even though it was just a game, he felt very refreshed. He was happy with his current profession as a chef in the game. He had been able to go very far, but had to stop. Now, he had the opportunity to start everything over from the beginning. Back in the real world, it was almost 4 a.m. Now, he had to rest so that he could start his part-time job the next day. First, before he got sleepy, he quickly read some posts about Reel. There was a warning that it was not allowed to post videos of the game on other platforms. If violated, he would be banned permanently. But it was okay to store them without posting. Thinking of this, he immediately watched his own video. He was also surprised and curious to see his own combat image in the game. Hyung also found out what his character looked like, and he was vain about his character. So that's what he looked like, so handsome. I wonder if others think so too. Absorbed in watching, Hyung didn't know when he had fallen asleep. The next day in the game, there was a player who used the way Hyung had defeated the boss to hunt. But he didn't know that each monster would have a different weakness. Because of that, this guy was beaten up by the giant chicken. At a corner of the chicken hunting map, Melina was selling grilled chicken skewers and fried eggs. But the players who came to eat were not very satisfied. Because it was not as delicious as his, she did not like it. Not only that, it was also not cooked enough. To make up for it, she gave him free grilled skewers. Although she could not cook as well as Hyung, she did not give up. Melina continued to scream and sell. The system showed a notification, continuously attracting customers for 5 hours. She received the skill of a loudspeaker of S rank, with maximum power increased by 10%, and volume increased by 1%. She had been shouting for 5 hours without a loudspeaker. With a loudspeaker, she would probably annoy the neighbors all day. She received the skill that made Melina more excited, and then the sound of delivery orders rang again, making the players headache and unable to bear it, so they came to buy things. In reality, Hyung was starting his part-time job. His job was to help in the kitchen and prepare the ingredients. When the boss saw Hyung preparing the ingredients, he was very surprised. The young man who was the main cook seemed annoyed and said, "Hey, this is not a competition. Who are you trying to prove yourself to? Why are you cutting so fast? How can you do it evenly if you cut so fast?" In front of his annoyance, Hyung was still calm and gentle. "Did I make you uncomfortable? I'm sorry." But when he looked back at the beautiful onion slices, he was speechless. He did not want to admit the talent of others. He got angry and asked Hyung to fry eggs for the bibimbap dish. "Fry the eggs golden on one side, don't break the yolk. At least you should know that, right?" Hyung started to fry the eggs. He could not smell or taste now, so he only relied on his technique and experience to do it. He began to recall the experiences in the game, remembering the compliments of the people who ate the food there. Finally, the beautiful bibimbap with fried eggs was completed and served to the customers. The customers felt that this bibimbap had something different. They thought it was just a feeling, but when they tasted the yolk of the fried egg, they could not help but shout, "Wow, this is so delicious." "What is this, assistant? Have you tried the bibimbap yet? It's really very, very delicious. Has the bibimbap here always been this good? This fried egg is amazing. Today's lunch exceeded my expectations." Inside the kitchen, Hyung was still listening to the praises of the customers. "Look, the egg white is also soft. How wonderful, manager, look at this, the yolk is flowing out so beautifully. This place must be eaten for a long time, word by word." The sincere compliments of the customer made Hyung unconsciously happy. He thought to himself that he might have lost his sense of taste, but his experience was still intact. Even if he could only taste the food in the game, but in real life, he thought he could start over from the beginning. Let's try again. He will rely on his skills and experience to continue trying harder for this passion. The first day of work after a year of Hyung was also successful. Although he was still not used to the job, nothing went wrong. After cleaning up, he went out to say goodbye to the boss and packed his bags, intending to go home. The cute and pretty waitress ran over. "From now on we have worked together. You have to say hello to me too. Can you call me Appa? You were amazing today. I can't believe this is your first day of work. Be careful on your way home. See you tomorrow." Hyun also went happily, because of the innocence of this girl. He happily greeted everyone and left. The boss was full of praise, but the picky main chef still didn't feel comfortable with this new assistant chef. That night, the guests still came to eat bibimbap, but no one praised it as delicious as at noon. Making the boss feel strange, he remembered that all the bibimbap made by Hyung were praised by the guests. Since Hyung left, the compliments also disappeared with it. He thought that Hyung had some secret recipe for this dish. After returning home, Hyung tried to recreate the dishes he had made in the game. Just a moment later, the fried egg, grilled chicken skewers, and stir-fried cucumber mushrooms were completed in a very appetizing way. Hyung started to sit at the table, put the food in his mouth. He started chewing and trying to remember the taste of these dishes, but it was still difficult. Everything was still bland. Hyung encouraged himself not to be disappointed. There is nothing to be disappointed about. Being able to taste and cook in the game was already a miracle. Hyung continued to eat slowly and remember the happy flavors that he had felt in the game, even though he could not feel anything at all. But he still managed to eat 3 plates of food. This was the first time since he lost his sense of taste he could finish the food he cooked himself. His stomach was full. Hyung drank a tube of water, and then returned to continue with the joyful adventure in the game. Back in the game today, Hyung decided to take the initiative to hunt and make other dishes. Since he entered the game, he had only cooked snacks, and when he did not know what to cook, a group of lizards appeared. So he decided to try making a dish with these lizards today. Without hesitation, he rushed into the group of lizards and slaughtered them. He used the horn of the chicken boss as a weapon. His attack power increased significantly, and he only stabbed once and the lizard was smashed like a bran. Wow! If he hit too hard, the meat would not be delicious anymore. He hoped they would not resist, but he probably had to chop them up. Thinking of this, Hyung continued to rush into the group of lizards, farming them freely. The players also saw Hyung at this time. They did not understand what he was trying to do by catching those lizards. The blonde-haired guy looked at Hyung with a jealous expression. Why didn't he catch spiders? Didn't he know that spider silk sold very well? Actually, Hyung did not like spiders, so he skipped them and only aimed at the lizards. Finally, he felt that he had enough and stopped from the lizards he killed. There were a few small purple spherical stones dropped, which contained both attack and defense stones. He did not know what their effects were, but they were items, so he put them in his inventory. Suddenly, a monster shadow appeared behind Hyung. It looked like a spider. The system showed a notification of a great achievement. Was that person an ally? The condition was achieved when he was in the spider forest and only killed lizards instead of red spiders. The reward was a chance to get the hidden quest of the Red Spider Queen. He did not understand what was going on. Then he realized that there was someone behind him and turned around. He was startled when it was not a player, but a giant spider with flashy colors. Not only that, but this spider can also talk. The human over there, in the name of the queen of this forest, I have a request. Will you listen? Seeing a question mark on the queen spider's head, Hyung thought it was a mission and a game, so he had to do it. So he thought he just had to stand still. After a while, there was no movement. The queen spider asked again, "Are you just going to stand still like that? Are you our ally?" Because of his lack of gaming experience, Hyung didn't know how to handle it. He was surprised to receive a hidden mission. Not many players received missions like this, because the system required the player to meet a certain condition to receive the mission. There was a stranger who saw Hyung standing and looking at the strange spider. He was curious and came closer. He took out his weapon and tried to attack, but before he could do anything, the queen spider sent him away in the blink of an eye. A pair of shoes made from lizard skin and red spider silk fell out, making Hyung quite surprised. He picked them up and used them. Hyung didn't know this was an action of picking up items. He just thought that if he met him again, he would return them. If the queen spider took them back, she spoke again, "Human, I ask for the last time. Are you an ally?" Before the queen spider's question, Hyung did not hesitate and answered right away. "Yes." The queen spider began to explain the situation. Before, this forest was a peaceful place. But one day, the tall lizards appeared, occupied the territory and ate the red spiders. Because the queen of the lizards could not take over the rule of the other forest, she led them here. The queen's request was to kill the lizard queen, and restore peace to the forest. Hyung also did not hesitate to accept the mission of hunting the lizard queen. The reward for completing it was a new skill and a hidden achievement. After the handover, the queen spider also left Hyung with a hungry stomach. He started to make a dish. Skewer this lizard. While roasting the meat, his hands suddenly glowed, and the system notification appeared with the passive skill chef's lock. Whenever a delicious dish is made, you will have a low chance of getting a temporary power-up skill. Hyung thought, this must be a skill from cooking continuously. It made him more interested and want to cook more. The grilled lizard skewers were done. Eating this dish added 20 points of hunger and 1 point of defense. Every dish he made increased his character's stats. If he kept eating delicious food regularly, he would soon become invincible. Without thinking too much, Hyung reached for a grilled lizard skewer and put it in his mouth. He bit a big piece as soon as the lizard meat was in his mouth, and its distinctive flavor completely invaded his taste buds. The lizard had a crunchy and chewy texture, quite similar to chicken. However, it had a more special and strong taste. It was a combination of the fluffiness of chicken and the chewiness of frog meat. It was so delicious that Hyung had tears in his eyes. It was exactly the taste of lizard meat, with the divine fish sauce. It was delicious until the last piece. As soon as he finished eating, his character's stats increased by 2 points of defense and 5 points of endurance. Hyung started to have ambition. Just by cooking and eating, his strength would also increase. After filling his stomach, he started to think about completing the mission, finding the lizards. Hyung began to deal with the lizards, trying to attract attention for the boss to appear. Because he ate a lot of delicious food, Hyung's stats had also increased quite a lot. Combined with the horn of the giant chicken boss, Hyung easily killed the lizards. Every time he swung the horn, a few lizards died. Although he had defeated many lizards, their number seemed to decrease by how much. The lizards gathered together and began to counterattack after being killed a lot. He didn't expect that they knew how to gang up. Although he didn't intend to hunt like this, there was no other way. Hyung had to kill these giant lizards. After defeating the lizards, Hyung was happy because he felt he was getting used to hunting. Later, he could actively look for cooking ingredients. Hyung didn't know that he was being watched by a blonde girl who showed through her tone that she knew about Hyung. She smiled with delight. "You're doing pretty well, chef. I'm looking forward to it." Hyung had fought with the lizards for a long time, and the fight made him hungry quickly. But it was okay, he had food in his inventory and he replenished his strength. The more he ate, the more he found the lizard meat irresistible. Hyung looked at the lizards that were rushing towards him with greedy eyes. In a flash, he cleared a whole field of lizard monsters. While resting, a red spider came to him and spat out a roll of spider silk for him. It was a gift, apparently to thank him. He didn't know what it was for, so he put it away. After fighting for a while, he was hungry again. He continued to make the lizards into delicious dishes and enjoyed them. Thanks to killing a whole field of lizard monsters, Hyung also collected a lot of items such as magic stones. He also received many titles such as Lizard Slayer, a title he got after killing 20 of them while fighting and eating lizard meat to supplement. He also got the title Gluttonous Eater, a title he got when he ate the same dish more than 100 times. His weak point skill was also upgraded, adding 25% attack to the attack while eating. The young man who was taken back by the queen last time, found Hyung and immediately recognized him. Last time he thought he came to get his shoes back, but he hugged his face and looked depressed. Because these shoes were exclusive items, whoever wore them would become the sole owner. The young man spoke with a resentful tone. "I'm the only one who can make this item. I guess I have to hunt some more to make it again," he said, and left with a gloomy mood. Hyung saw that and felt sorry, so he called him back. "Wait, what do you need? I can give it to you," he said. Then Hyung took out a bunch of lizards. Along with that was spider silk. Seeing the shiny spider silk, his eyes lit up. "Isn't that the best spider silk thread? Don't you know? Don't you know what this is?" he said. Then he didn't hesitate anymore, and took the thread. He sat down with the intention of crafting right there. Seeing Hyung only focused on the lizards, he curiously asked, "Are you doing the Lizard Queen quest?" "Yes, that's right. I'm wondering how the lizard tastes." "Actually, my main purpose is just to find delicious food." On the other side, the young man started working. His name was Arter, and his profession in the game was crafter. He took out a needle and threaded it with spider silk. His hands were fast as lightning and started sewing skillfully. Watching the boy work attentively, Hyung also felt that he couldn't stand idle in the game. He took out the lizard meat ingredients he had stored and a grill and started cooking crazily. On the other side, the boy was not inferior, his spirit was high, and his hands worked non-stop. The players around saw these two working like competing, and were speechless. After a while, the work was done. Arter had completed 2 pairs of shoes and a net. The shoes were made from good materials, so the stats were quite high: agility +10, attack +5, defense +5. As for the net, he gave it back to Hyung as a thank you for his generosity. The net had a strong effect, as it could immobilize monsters under 2 stars for 10 seconds. Hyung was very happy with this new equipment. It would surely help him in his hunting trips. After finishing his work, Arter said goodbye to Hyung and logged out of the game. That's how our lonely chef made another new friend. After parting with his new friend, Hyung continued to look for the Lizard Queen to complete his final task. He also found her sleeping in a corner of the forest. She was different from the other lizards. She was bigger. Her black skin and the scales like flames running along her body. Hyung calmly approached her, and she immediately detected him and woke up with a roar. "Who's coming?" Suddenly, 2 lizards bigger than the ones before jumped out, a surprise attack. But Hyung didn't seem to be startled or scared. Maybe fighting with the lizards before for a long time also gave him more experience, and he ate too much, making his character's stats not to be underestimated. He looked confident, swung his weapon and stabbed them. A critical hit, but this lizard didn't die, making Hyung surprised. The level of these 2 was different from the lizards he killed before. They were not bosses, but they were also very strong. They became more ferocious after being hit, and they swung their tails and hit him, making him fly and hit the rock wall far away. Hyung realized that with the current situation, it was hard to win, and in a difficult situation, he thought of these guys as cooking ingredients, making his spirit recover immediately. He took out the magic stones he had stored in his bag to use, and his ability was significantly increased in a moment. Hyung continued to hold his weapon and fight. After a fierce battle, he also succeeded in killing the 2 lizard guards. As soon as the 2 subordinates were killed, the queen began to move, and there was hostility in her eyes. She stood up and roared loudly, making the hair of the 2 dead lizards peel off to reveal a white body like white mist. They came back to life and attacked. After a fierce fight of 1 against 3, Hyung also officially killed the 2 lizards, but his situation was also miserable. The amount of blood left could only withstand a few more hits. Not only that, the Lizard Queen had started to enter a rage state. The situation was getting worse. At this time, Hyung remembered the net that Arter had left to take advantage of. As the boss was rushing towards him, Hyung threw the net, catching and tying her up. Then he concentrated his strength on his weapon, and rushed to stab her in the head, but the fatal blow did not kill the queen. On the contrary, he was hit by it and flew away for dozens of meters. His health dropped to a level that could be counted by 10 fingers. However, the queen was also affected by the net for a short time. For 10 seconds, she couldn't move. Hyung remembered the skill he got after defeating the chicken boss. He used his last strength, grabbed his weapon and crawled up. His eyes flared up again. Hyung focused all his remaining power, and launched another critical hit on the top of the queen's head. Fortunately, Hyung's final efforts succeeded in killing the lizard queen. Right after killing her, he immediately received a passive skill, the lizard's strength. This skill allowed the player to climb up to 20 m high. Hyung's feat was seen by other players from the beginning. Everyone admired his ability. Before, they thought he only knew how to cook. Hyung was about to take the lizard queen's corpse to meet the spider queen to complete the quest, when the spider queen appeared. That person, no need to look for her, I'm here. The lizard queen is dead, their forces are weakened. The queen immediately ordered her children to rush up and drive them away. As for the spider queen, to thank him for giving her valuable rewards, all stats increased by 10 points, a new skill, a rank S poison bag, and another profession, called the pioneer. Wow, that's so cool. Awesome. Congratulations, how did you beat that monster by yourself? The players cheered. Hyung felt a bit embarrassed, but in the end, they came here just because they wanted to eat his food. Hyung was also very generous. To celebrate today, all the dishes were 50% off. The grill stall was quickly set up again, and in a short time, the number of customers increased. No one could resist the deliciousness of the food he made, they even fought to get a seat. They lined up to buy food. He was alone, cooking and selling. It was really hard. As he was tired, a small hand gave him a towel to wipe his sweat. It was Melina, who had used the friend search function to find his location. She congratulated him on completing a big task. She offered to help him sell the food. Taking a deep breath, Melina shouted, "Please line up." Her voice, supported by the speaker's skill, was unexpectedly loud. It made all the customers who were fighting each other listen and obediently queue up to buy the food. Finally, the lizard meat was sold out, except for one piece. He wanted to save it for Melina, but then another customer came. This guy also wanted to buy a portion of grilled lizard meat. However, since there was only one piece left for Melina, Hyung had to refuse. However, he still begged to sell that piece, not letting the other guy talk more. Melina quickly skewered the meat with a plate and started to enjoy it, even though it was still hot. Not wanting him to leave empty-handed, Hyung took out the last grilled chicken skewer and offered it to this guy. Although he smiled cheerfully on the outside, he was plotting something in his head. It turned out that he was also a chef. Today he came here to see if Hyung's food was as good as the rumor. Before eating, his face showed contempt, but as soon as he bit the first piece of meat and chewed, his attitude completely changed. The grilled chicken skewer was so delicious that he couldn't control himself anymore, and shouted, "Oh my God, what is this taste? It's so good." The flavor of the chicken exploded in my mouth and completely defeated me. His face now had a look of astonishment, satisfaction and happiness.